Hi everyone. It is after midnight, Saturday morning. I need to go to bed. Like I really need to go to bed. This is not going to shock. I have a new Tal Bauer book. So if you guys have not at all followed me on Instagram for the last week since Tal Bauer popped up and said, hey, I've got a new book coming out, I've been an absolute nuisance and a monster of a person. So the fall, it's the 13th here. Like it's midnight on the 13th of September. The fall has come out. This book is 800 pages long. It features one of my least favorite tropes in romance, which is the amnesia trope, but am I going to read it? Absolutely I am. Am I going to try and read the entire thing on Saturday? Yes. Will I succeed? I don't know, but I'm going to give it a red hot crack. I have to go out for my grandmother's birthday today. So I need to go to bed because I need to go and spend time with family. And I'm going to be reading before and after that event. I have a live show on Sunday for another book. Good luck to everyone that I'm going to be on that live show with. I don't know what the contents of this vlog will be, but new Tal Bauer book. Oh my gosh. In the month that I've already read one Tal Bauer book, I have another one to read and potentially my last of his backlist, and I have a new one. I didn't even introduce my channel. Hi, my name is Steph. This is the Novelty Corner. This is not my usual look because I should be asleep, but I'm here and this is what we're going to be doing. I am going to go to bed. I'm not going to start reading it now, but I really want to. I lied. I read the first chapter. That was a really stupid thing to do because I really do need to go to sleep. We are in, I believe, only the perspective of one of the characters. That's Tori, who is 23. He plays in the NHL and he was the second draft pick the year that he was drafted and was thought to be, you know, the next generational talent and has not lived up to expectations. And the entire first part of the first chapter is him walking into the ocean, feeling the immense pressure of basically being a failure at what he set out to achieve. Like, he states that he's not suicidal, but a lot of the thoughts are very much on that theme of suicidal ideation. He does walk himself out of the water, and he's in the locker room and they're playing a game and he takes a massive hit on the ice, and basically that's where the chapter ends, basically with him passing out. That's where we are. Poor life decisions were made tonight. Good morning everyone. I'm awake now, hopefully less unhinged, and this morning has been interesting. I've got my grandmother's birthday lunch today, so I've just been out to buy her gift. Look at how beautiful this wrapping paper is. Anyway, I bought that. I've got to write her card, which looks like this, and I'm currently just making some breakfast, which is just going to be cheese on toast. And I have also read 3 more chapters in the fall. I told myself I was going to read 1 more chapter, then go get ready, do the shopping, come back, have breakfast, then read some more, but somehow I found myself 4 chapters deep. I feel like I should say at this point, there's going to be spoilers in this video. I don't think I ever truly spoil things, but I will talk about what happens in the book and sort of how I feel about it and how it affects the storytelling and the reading experience, etc. I'm loving it. I'm loving it so far. So I think I read the first chapter last night, then messaged the group. That was a stupid thing for me to do before going to bed. In chapter 2, Tori wakes up and he's in bed with a guy. He doesn't remember, he doesn't know where he is, he doesn't know who the guy is initially. He has no clue what is going on. All he can remember is the hit, but he finds out it's 1 year later. He's in bed with Blair Callahan, who is the captain of the Tampa Bay Mutineers, who is the team that he was playing when he took the hit on the ice. So one of their players, I don't know if it's a current player or a previous player at this point in the story, has hit him and he's ended up with a concussion. But we also find out that he's had a concussion the previous night. So he doesn't know he's 1 year later until he looks at his phone after he's been horribly sick, and he knows there's been a recent concussion, there is a previous concussion. The team doctor knows that there is something going on, but suddenly everything is different. Like, he's at a new team, he's suddenly playing really well. He's in a happy, committed relationship, but he doesn't remember how he got there. He doesn't remember the experiences that he's had with Blair, just that he feels like it's the right thing. And he is sad that he doesn't remember, because we discovered prior to all of this, he suspected that he was gay or queer, or, you know, he said, I guess I'm gay now. But he'd never really allowed himself to be that because everything was dedicated to his career, which was going horribly. And now everything is going really well, but he doesn't remember any of it. And even that is like a trigger for him. So I'm fully prepared to bawl my eyes out. And from what I gather, it is single POV from Tori's perspective. I don't think we get Blair's perspective. And I don't think we necessarily need to, except that Blair, so far, I really hope this just, I mean, it's Tal Bauer. I'm hoping that it stays the same through the whole book. Blair is just a sweetheart. He is so caring and clearly so dedicated to Tori, just in these little things where he's checking in on him. He's making sure that he's okay. Meanwhile, Tori is just freaking out because she's like, I can't tell him that I don't remember, which is another reason why I don't like the amnesia trope. But hello, beautiful friends. I am back from lunch. I haven't been able to read anymore. I did not get a chance to. It's 5:16. I'm gonna have a shower. I'm not really hungry yet, so I'm just gonna shower and then start reading again. But yes, I'm gonna go kind of condense from the day, and then I'm going to be back reading more because I'm so pumped to get back into the fall. Like, we're going to read it tonight. Okay, I'm up to chapter 13, which is page 171. I'm not even a quarter of the way through the book yet. Two undeniable things. One, I love this book. The writing is amazing. The connection to the characters straight away is amazing. The second thing is that nothing is what it seems, and I'm very, very stressed out by that. So we know that Tori had a concussion, or was hit and blacked out in the first chapter. We know that he's woken up a year later after another concussion, and now he's dreaming about a car accident. And there are things that he's having these senses of deja vu, like he knows and has experienced particular conversations before. I'm very stressed out because there's still 600 pages plus of book left. And I have a feeling I know where this is going, but I am so stressed out. Essentially, consider everything from this moment forward a spoiler, because I'm going to spoil things. Because quite literally in the next chapter after my last update, when I was at page 170 whatever, we find out that pretty much everything after chapter 1, well, I'm assuming because this book is it's a mind bender. Pretty much everything after chapter 1 was all in Tori's head, and he was never in a relationship with Blair, and this entire life that he's built up over the course of a year does not exist. And it ends quite traumatically in that he and his team end up in a car accident, and then he wakes up in the hospital. It is the day after he was hit on the ice in chapter 1, and everything that he thought was real, which, you know, he was questioning whether or not it was real, because there were things that just didn't make sense to him, but it felt real and he wanted it to be real. And he wakes up and none of it's real, and then he starts to spiral. Like, he literally goes off the rails with his original team who are in Vancouver. He spirals. He gets dumped by his team. He ends up an alcoholic. He basically ends up collapsed on the side of the road. He wasn't drinking and driving, but he ends up collapsed on the side of the road and is picked up by, or is seen by, a cop, and has to call his coach to come and pick him up, even though he says there's no one who can come and pick me up. And like, that's it, the team are done with him. And then he finds that he has been offloaded to the mutineers in Tampa Bay. And that is where Blair is. I don't know if my heart can, I don't know. Like I said, like I love the story. Like there's no question that I love the story. I don't know how I'm gonna go, but I am 234 pages in now. So we're gonna keep on reading because there's so much book left. All right, we are at page 319. So things do not go well for Tori when he first gets to Tampa Bay. And he is literally on his last chance, and he kind of makes it onto the team after pre-season by the skin of his teeth, and he gets basically told, you've got 30 days to prove to us that you belong here. And along the way he's trying to win over one of his teammates called Hayes, who features quite heavily in the initial sequence where he has, you know, dreamed this life that he had. And he was quite close with Hayes. He was one of his best friends, and throughout that kind of period where he was dreaming, he learnt that he helped somehow he helped save Hayes's wife Erin's life. She had cancer, and we kind of get a version of that in this new life. And we also know he's very close with Hayes's daughter, who's 4.5, and we just got the scene then, which is absolutely adorable, because Hayes's daughter Lily has broken her arm, and Tori ends up driving with Hayes to the hospital, and he kind of stops off to get, you know, a gift for Lily. And then when he gets into the room, she's having a full-on meltdown. Erin and Hayes are just struggling to help calm her down because she has to get a cast, and he just walks in and basically says, right, to the nurse, right, I need a cast to match hers. What colors have you got? And he goes, right, sign me up for the pink cast. And he literally gets his arm in a cast. That just kind of helps Lily to settle down. And then he goes home and has dinner with them, and and basically earns a friend for life in the form of Hayes. And then the next day they go back to practice, and Tori walks in with his arm in a pink cast, and Hayes is just dramatically retelling the story over and over to anyone who listens. And even the coach walks in and takes one look at it and goes, I don't even want to know. Get it off, we're going on the ice. But yeah, like it's a very sweet moment. I'm not crying now, but there was a significant period where I'm like, I'm gonna start bawling. We're at 40%. Since he has moved to Tampa Bay, there is very little that he has had contact with Blair. And part of that is because when he gets to Tampa Bay, Tori is drowning himself in vodka and not coping, and he overhears a conversation between Blair and Hayes, and Blair is basically gone, that kid, meaning Tori, has given up on himself, and I don't have it in me to go through that again, not after Cody. And Cody is Blair's brother, who was 22, about the same age as Tori, was playing over in the European hockey leagues and ended up unaliving himself. And he just, through that conversation, we see that Blair sees that in Tori and he does not want to get close. Lots of little pieces are coming together. This better not be another bloody dream. Where am I? I'm at page 467. Tori and Blair are the most adorable characters who need to be in therapy, both of them. But yes, they've finally connected because Tori had a moment where he basically overloaded and collapsed after taking a stick to the head. And also, one thing I don't think I've mentioned is Tori sketches, and one of the things he's been doing has been sketching Blair. And on a flight back from an away game, Blair finally sees the sketchbook and is looking through at all of these pictures that Tori has drawn of him, and says that they're going to talk about it afterwards. And Tori freaks out, and that kind of compounds his stress, and so he ends up collapsing, and the team doctor sees him and basically puts him on concussion protocol, which then prompts Blair to come and find him. And they, you know, they have their moment, and it's, oh, the feelings. Okay, so I think earlier I said that this book is a real mind trip because we are now back to the start of the second chapter, where Tori wakes up after the hit that he receives as a mutineer. So we have come full circle. This is where my stress and anxiety is about to ramp up yet again. I can't exactly remember where I left off on my last comments. I'm now on page 622. Book's going well. The relationship between Tori and Blair is going well. They're still stupidly adorable. One thing I can say, which I should probably save for the end, maybe when I'm talking less spoilers and overall thoughts, but I'll mention it here anyway, just in case I forget, is that there is a lot more hockey in this book. And like, there's always been hockey in Tal's hockey romances, but there is a lot of hockey and a lot of on-ice time. And like, there were, like, in the rest of the story, which I think is still going to be my favorite after this, like, I don't think that's going to be in dispute. The rest of the story, they talk a lot about the games, but you're not necessarily on the ice for a lot of them, whereas we're spending a lot of time in practice, in drills, and during games. Like, for instance, like we've literally just played out the game where the mutineers are playing Washington, and the player who in the first chapter of the book that started all of this, that gave Tori his first concussion, he has been traded to Washington. We find out the backstory and how he and Blair on the mutineers did not get along. Like, they did not. And all this player does is just go after Tori the entire game until he hits him again, and then Blair loses it. Like, full on proper hockey fight. Anyway, but the whole thing is on, like, it's every moment that you're on the ice, or that they're on the ice, you're getting what it's like to be on the ice. I do like that in my hockey books. I talk about it a lot. Like, sometimes there's not enough hockey in the hockey romances. I mean, it's an 800-page book. There better be some damn hockey on the page. And there definitely is that. How am I going to be at the end of this book? I don't know. Alrighty, so I finished The Fall. And I did cry again, particularly in the last 100 pages of the book. It's really tough to read. And I know I've said it the whole way through. And I guess I'm going to reiterate spoilers. So many spoilers. I had to change the camera battery so that I could ramble at you for the foreseeable future. I think I was maybe about 650 pages when I last updated you. Anyway, so from there, a lot of things happen. I think earlier in the video I mentioned that sort of one of the triggering points is that Tori and Blair and other members of the team are in a car accident. It's sort of the catalyst that prompts Tori to wake up again back post his first hit and then relive joining the Tampa Bay Mutineers and meeting Blair and all of that. That's kind of the catalyst. And so he's been living this life, he's been getting to know Blair, and then we hit the point where he previously had woken up and been very confused as to how he was in this life. And then he relives that again. So a good portion of this book, about 100 pages of this book, is reiterated from the first half of the book to the second half of the book, which does actually make it a faster read. There are minor differences because this time Blair is very aware that this is the second time he's experienced this. He's very confused. He's kind of freaking out, like he has no idea why he knows what's about to happen, why he feels like he's lived it before. Everything happens, like they win their final game of the season, they're in the playoffs, and the catalyst was Hayes booking everyone a limo to go out and celebrate after their final win. And that's when the accident happened, and so Tori is like, he just has this horrible feeling that this is going to happen again, and so he's like, no, I'm going to drive everyone. Don't order the limo, I'm going to drive everyone. And this accident happened on a bridge, and the driver passed out for some reason. The limo stalled and flipped, and then another car hit the limo, and the limo went off a bridge. That was the incident. So Tori thinks that by driving he can stop it. What happens is when they're driving across the bridge, and he is paranoid, he's driving slowly, he is trying to avoid anything that could possibly go wrong. They see the limo flips again, they stop, everyone gets out of the car, they're trying to call for help, they're trying to make sure that everyone in the limo is safe, but the car that hits the limo doesn't hit the limo, it hits Tori, who is still in the car while everyone else has gotten out, and Tori goes off the side of the bridge. He ends up in the water, and he wakes up in the hospital. It's still the current timeline, and I say timeline, I don't mean that in terms of there have been different timelines, it's just where he is in the story. It's not him flashing back to anywhere, it's still sort of time moving forward, and he finds out from Blair that Blair dived into the water to pull him out of the car alongside Hayes. And when they pulled him out, Tori was dead, and they had to revive him. So he was not breathing for, I think they said, 3 minutes. So they wake up in the hospital, and the doctors basically tell Tori that they've found a lesion on his brain, and that lesion they've discovered by going back over his sort of patient history was there after the first hit from the first chapter, but it wasn't defined. And this lesion has been causing him to have seizures, particularly seizures that feel like hallucinations or real life lived experiences, which kind of explains everything that has gone on. Like, this is page 756 of the book. We're finding out that like everything that's happened has been because of this. So he's been experiencing these seizures, like, where, you know, outwardly it doesn't look any different. He doesn't look any different. It's all in his head. And he's basically given the choice of, they can control the seizures with medication, but he'll never play hockey again, or he can have surgery to remove the lesion, and it happens to be in a place that's easy to operate on, or easier to operate on considering it's brain surgery. And what all of this does, particularly for Blair, is it brings up everything, all of his trauma around his brother's death. His brother who killed himself, and I mean, I haven't really gone into that side of the story, mostly because we're so in Tori's perspective, but really in this last 100 pages of the book, we get to see the absolute impact that has on Blair, because it's something that's been hinted at but probably not explored because we're never in Blair's perspective. And the absolute trauma of having to pull out the person that he loves, another person that he loves, from the water, finding that Tori is not breathing, has just triggered Blair something chronic. He takes a leave of absence from the team. He goes into the player assistance program because he knows that he needs to go and get therapy. I mean, I said that earlier in the film, they both need to be in therapy, but he knows he needs to get therapy because every time he closes his eyes, all he can see and all that he thinks of is the fact that Tori died. Tori goes through the surgery, and the last couple of chapters are his recovery, which has its positives and its drawbacks. And like, the epilogue is 6 months down the track, where he's only just starting to get back out on the ice. There's lots of talks about, you know, his recovery, and also Blair's therapy and his recovery, and the fact that everything is still deeply impacting him. And I guess what I really appreciated was, I wasn't sure whether we were going to get Tori telling Blair that he was basically feeling this sense of deja vu over living his life again. And he does. He has the conversation, and Blair doesn't treat him any differently. Of course, they know that there's a medical reason for why that's happened, no matter how unbelievable it seems. Like, it's like they know that there's a reason why it occurred. I liked that was in there, and I liked where it was placed in the story and how that was handled. I have so many friends who know people who deal with any kind of, who have family members who are living with any kind of mental condition where you can't trust your memories, or your memories are fading. And while it's not the case of dementia or Alzheimer's or anything like that, like the whole way through the book, the most stressful thing is that Tori doesn't trust his own experiences. Like he doesn't trust the moment that he's living in. And that's always really stressful. And I kind of like this better than an amnesia plotline, because even though it has been promoted as an amnesia plotline, you kind of need to, because otherwise you're giving away the plot of the story. But I think the way that all that came about was really interesting and stressful and tearjerker worthy. So yes. Anyway, I'm going to stop the spoilers here, and I think I'm just going to give a few final thoughts. So if you have skipped through all of the spoiler section, which fair enough, totally would understand people doing that, I think it's a really wonderful book. For me, I don't think it tops the rest of the story. That's still my absolute all-time favorite Tal Bauer book. I think this is on par with Gravity for me, in kind of second spot, for different reasons. One, I talked about earlier in the spoiler section, but I'll repeat it here for anyone who skipped through that section. I love the amount of hockey that's on page. I think there is so much care taken to consider these guys are professional hockey players. They live for this. Tori, who has been in a team who has not known how to train him and to use him to his full potential. Like Vancouver, didn't use him at all. They basically hung him out to dry and then treated him like rubbish when he didn't perform, but they didn't put any effort into actually helping him succeed. To him coming to Tampa Bay and knowing that this is his last chance and he has to find the will to kind of step up, but also have other people around him helping him to step up. And when Blair is able to finally see past a lot of his issues, which I've talked about in the book. I don't think I've actually talked about them anywhere in this video, but there's a whole lot of reasons why Blair is initially unable to kind of connect with Tori, but he starts to help train him and he starts to teach him, and you see those little teachable moments. They're short, but they have such an impact on the story, because you can tell, one, there's a passion for the sport, and being a hockey player is integral to both of these characters. And to have that on page is really, really important. I think it's the same in any hockey romance. Otherwise, it's just a romance that happens to have someone who plays hockey in it. And as someone who loves the sport, who loves watching the sport, I love to see the sport represented on page. I think these two characters are really interesting together. They're both dealing with trauma. And it's very different trauma for both of them. They obviously care a lot about each other, and they're willing to support each other through everything, but they have things that they need to work on. And it's the fact that they've connected and they have so much love for one another that means that the adversity that they face isn't overwhelming for them. And by that I mean it doesn't overwhelm how they feel about one another. Like, there's no third act breakup or anything like that. It's all very much, their relationship is solid. It's the things that they've had to deal with in their life, both physical ailments and also emotional trauma, that they have to work on. And a lot of it is them working on it independently, and some of it is them working on it together. So I really like that. And I mean, if you've read any of Tal Bauer's books, you know, like, you just know that he does a really good job of finding the connections between characters and the reasons why they work. So that's in the book as well. Love the side characters. All of the Tampa Bay Mutiny side characters are amazing. Hayes and his wife Erin and their daughter Lily are some of my favorite characters in the book. You kind of don't get as much of the wider team. Like, you get little snippets of them in the hockey moments, but you do get to see a little bit more of the fact that we're working within a regular hockey organization structure, which we didn't really get in the rest of the story for the story purposes. It's well written. It reads really quickly for an 800+ page book. I read the first chapter at midnight last night. It didn't take me very long. I read maybe up to chapter 7 before I went to lunch, and I was only kind of reading for about 30-40 minutes when I did that. And then tonight I started reading at about 5:30, and it's now 10:30, and I've been rambling at you guys for about 15 minutes, and I had to do a couple of other things before I even started talking to you. So I probably finished the book just after 10 o'clock. So it reads very quickly for a big book. If you are considering picking it up and you are concerned about the content warnings, I want to say watch the content warnings in the spoiler section, but if you don't want to be spoiled, you have a character who has experienced multiple concussions and is unable to trust his memory, which reads like amnesia, but is not quite amnesia in the grand total of the story. Watch the spoiler section if you want more specific details. You have a main character who in the first chapter is having thoughts that are very closely linked to suicidal ideation, even though he says it's not. It reads like it, so just be mindful of that. You have a character who spirals. When everything starts to go wrong, he starts drinking and his life spirals from there, and he has to dig himself out of that hole. You have a character who has experienced the death of a loved one to suicide and has unprocessed trauma from that because he was the primary connection to that person. There is a severe medical condition. Like those are the big ones, but spoiler section is going to be your best bet, but I will spoil the story. But I don't know how to give the proper full content warnings without spoiling it. I've done my best. It's 10:30 at night. I can't wait for this to be released as a physical book. I will be buying it and I'll have it on my shelf, and I will be doing another reread. I think this book will be really good on reread to actually see where everything connects. It's really good, but just have tissues on hand. It's a Tal Bauer book. Lots of tissues. Just be in a good place when you're reading it, but it was great. So that's it for this little reaction vlog, and this is actually going up on my birthday. So I made a joke that Tal Bauer was releasing a book and that the release news was my birthday gift, because it was, the news broke in September and then it comes out 5 days before my birthday, and now this video is going to be going up on my birthday because happy birthday to me. I got a Tal Bauer book that broke my heart and then stitched it back together again. In the comments, I'd love to know, have you started the book? Are you planning on picking it up, or are you just here along for my ramblings? Feel free to let me know down below in the comments. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't leave a comment, we'll go with hockey themed emojis again because it's a hockey book. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.